I used to think horses forgot the people who left them, but that was before Dakota came back. 10 years is a long time to carry a memory, especially for an animal everyone said couldn't feel something as deep as loyalty. But the truth is, sometimes loyalty doesn't die, it just waits. The morning I got the call, I almost didn't answer. I was sitting on the porch, staring at the same old horizon I'd been staring at for years. Coffee cold, the kind of silence that feels like a weight pressing on your chest. The voice on the other end said, "You used to own a Mustang named Dakota." I froze. It felt like someone had just reached through the phone and grabbed the past by the throat. "Yeah," I said slowly, my voice breaking. "Why?" the man sighed. "He's here at a rescue center north of Abilene. He's not doing well. Thought you'd want to know." For a long moment I couldn't breathe. Dakota, my Dakota. The horse I'd trained, loved, and sold when the ranch fell apart. The one I told myself would forget me, so I could live with the guilt. I hung up without another word, grabbed my keys, and drove through 3 hours of rain, the windshield wipers clicking like a heartbeat that wouldn't slow down. The rescue was small, just a cluster of half-rotten fences and muddy pens. The smell of damp hay and sadness filled the air. A woman led me to the far stall. "He came in a few months ago," she said softly. "Old starved, left behind when his owner moved away." She didn't need to tell me which one he was. I knew before I saw him. There in the corner stood a thin, faded bay horse with cloudy eyes and scars that told stories I didn't want to hear. His head was low, body trembling under the weight of exhaustion and time. "Dakota," I whispered. The name left my mouth before I could stop it. His ears twitched. He turned his head slightly, like a ghost recognizing a familiar sound. I stepped closer. "It's me, boy." For a moment there was nothing but silence and breathing. Then slowly he took one small step toward me, then another. By the time his muzzle brushed my hand, I couldn't see through the tears. 10 years. 10 long years, and he still remembered. I brought him home that same day. The paperwork was a blur. They said he was too weak to travel, that he might not make it through the month. But I knew better. Dakota was a fighter, and maybe so was I. The drive back felt endless, rain pouring, the trailer rattling behind me. Every mile I whispered promises I should have made a decade ago. "You're safe now. You'll never be alone again." When we finally reached the ranch, it was quiet, almost like the land itself was holding its breath. I'd bought the place back a few years earlier, trying to rebuild what life had broken, but it never felt alive again. Not until that night. When Dakota stepped off the trailer, the porch light caught his face just right, and for a moment I saw the horse he used to be, the proud Mustang that once raced the wind and refused to be tamed. He lifted his head, nostrils flaring, and I swear I saw recognition in his eyes. He took a shaky step toward the old barn, the same one he used to sleep in, and I followed, unable to stop the flood of memories. The first few weeks were hard. His ribs showed, his legs wobbled, and every breath seemed to take effort. The vet looked grim. "He's old," she said. "If you're lucky, maybe a few good months." But I wasn't thinking about luck. I was thinking about redemption. I set up heaters in the barn, lined his stall with the softest hay, and sat with him every night. I talked like he understood every word. About the wife I'd lost to cancer, the kids who'd moved away, the long, quiet years between us. Sometimes he'd nudge my shoulder like he was saying, "I'm still here." Slowly, day by day, he got stronger. His coat began to shine again, his steps steadier, and his eyes, those eyes, started to glow with that old stubborn spark. He began whinnying when I came out each morning, tapping his hoof like an impatient child waiting for breakfast. The first time he trotted across the paddock again, I swear I felt the earth shift. But the real miracle happened one morning at sunrise. I was sitting on the fence, coffee in hand, when Dakota walked up beside me and pressed his head against my arm. The air was cool, the light gold and soft, and for a long moment everything else disappeared. That's when I realized it wasn't just him I'd brought back. It was me. The man who'd lost faith in second chances was learning how to believe again. But life, as always, doesn't hand out peace without testing it first. One afternoon, a truck pulled into the driveway. A stranger stepped out. Clean boots, stiff posture, the kind of man who carries his pride like a badge. He said he'd been Dakota's last owner before the rescue. "He's mine," the man said flatly. "Got the papers to prove it?" I stared at him, anger rising in my chest. "You abandoned him," I said. "Left him to die." He smirked. "He wasn't worth the feed." The words hit like a punch. For a moment I thought I'd lose it. But instead I looked at Dakota, calm, steady, watching us both, and I realized something. I wasn't fighting for ownership. I was fighting for what's right. "You don't deserve him," I said quietly, "and you won't get him back." I pulled out my checkbook. "I'll buy him again." The man raised an eyebrow, but when he saw I meant it, he shrugged. "Your money," he muttered, walking away. The second I heard his truck fade down the road, I turned to Dakota and said, "You're home. For good this time." He blew through his nostrils like a sigh of relief, and I swear it sounded like gratitude. The months that followed were golden. The ranch filled with life again. Neighbors came by to see the miracle horse. Kids from the local school visited to feed him apples. Veterans dropped by to brush his coat and talk about life. Dakota had a way of listening that made people forget their pain. He wasn't just a horse anymore. He was a healer, a reminder that broken things can still be beautiful. One afternoon, a small boy named Noah came with his mother. He was quiet, barely looked up, holding his arm tight against his chest like he was hiding behind it. His mother whispered that he hadn't spoken since his father passed. I knelt beside him and said, "Do you want to meet Dakota?" He nodded. When we walked up, Dakota lowered his head, his warm breath brushing the boy's face. Noah giggled, a tiny sound, fragile and pure, and whispered, "Hi." It was his first word in months. His mother cried. I did too. That day I realized something. I hadn't just saved Dakota. He'd become a vessel for everyone else's healing too. Time passed, and the seasons turned. I'd catch myself smiling more, laughing at things I'd forgotten were funny. Some mornings I'd wake before dawn just to watch him run. The way his muscles still rippled under the sunrise, the dust rising behind him like memory made visible. Every stride said, "I'm alive, I'm free." And in those moments, I believed in miracles again. But as all stories go, time has its way of reminding us that nothing lasts forever. One cool autumn morning, I found Dakota lying in the pasture, the light just breaking over the hills. I knew before I reached him. His breathing was shallow, his eyes soft. I sat beside him, placed my hand on his neck, and whispered, "It's okay, boy. You're home now." He blinked slowly, the morning sun glinting in his eyes, and then he was gone. The wind moved through the grass, gentle and slow, like the earth itself exhaled. I stayed there for hours, watching the light shift, feeling the weight of gratitude and grief mix in my chest. He'd come back after 10 years, not for me to save him, but for him to save me. Now, every morning I walk the same path he once ran. The sun rises the same way, and sometimes when the wind hits just right, I swear I can still hear the sound of his hooves, a steady rhythm that reminds me love never really leaves. It just changes shape. I built a small wooden cross near the fence line and carved his name into it. Dakota, the one who returned. People still come by the ranch, still tell his story. And every time they do, I smile, because I know that even though he's gone, the lesson remains. When love is real, it always finds its way home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because somewhere out there, another soul is still waiting for their one-horse story.